Hey there, I'm Reverend Ryan, and we are Soul Evolution Collaborative, a nonprofit based in universal spiritual principles, offering possibilities for navigating the evolution of life in an authentic and intentional way. And this is Truth Be Told 2.0. It's our weekly series where we hopefully provide you some inspiring and uplifting messages and maybe some ways to live and look at life a little bit differently. And so this month we are talking about passion. And today we're talking about living from our passion. Now, often it can be kind of easy to talk about, oh, if I live for my passion, it would look like blah, 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 blah. So I think the question that we're really going to explore today is what gets in the way? What stands? What are our barriers? What are our challenges from really living and embracing that passion? So we're going to jump right in with that question. And so sit back and relax or lean in and get curious and enjoy this episode of Truth Be Told 2.0. So I kind of gave a little kind of sneak, a little taste in that of what we're really going to talk about because I do think when we talk about passion, even just saying the word passion, I mean, we can kind of like feel the energy of it. And for me, it's really easy to like talk about what that would look like. If I lived for my passion, I would do this. Or if
Yeah.
you can just kind of feel it. And it's really easy to kind of visualize. And I kind of call it like that 35,000 feet sort of view that's way up here and it's fluffy and it's yay and it's easy and then all of a sudden, whoop, you step out of your door and
Yeah.
you enter into the world with like people doing peoply things and then it becomes challenging. And so I think that the maybe the greater like little nugget that we can get into today is like what gets in the way? What
Yeah.
gets in the way of us living those passionate lives that we can so easily envision, or our passion, or the thing that we our need to bring into the world, or the thing that we need to do? I think it's really easy to visualize what that is,
Yeah.
but then to actually do it. And so I think the question that it'd be interesting to explore, at least for a few minutes today, not that we're going to solve this in one 10-minute sort of thing. I mean, we may, who knows? But
Maybe. Yeah.
like, what gets in the way of living from our passion or living our passions? And so I would just like to ask you, what's your viewpoint, whether it's your personal viewpoint or it's your general observation of humanity? What do you think often gets in the way
Well,
of living from passion?
it's really funny. I didn't even. So we were just talking about. Last week I was at this retreat, and we were talking about my trip home and whatever. And I wasn't even thinking about that within the context of this conversation when it really came up. But so this retreat was like one of the best retreats I think I've ever. I mean, the experience, like it really felt like there was this shift, this change in the world. It was probably one of the best retreats I've ever been on. Really felt transformative. you know, and then you jump in the Uber and get to the airport and get
Yeah.
into the line at security and everything changes, right? Talk about people being peoply. Um, so I think that 30,000-foot view, I can get all hyped up and excited about it
Mhm.
when I'm in that place and just like really, diving into that idea when I'm like physically in a place or mentally in a place where everything else can kind of get put down. So it's almost like that creating in a vacuum thing in a
Mm.
sense.
Like, it's the
Like
only thing you have to look at is the
y-
passion, the thing
yeah,
that you
yeah, 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 yeah. And man, did it like the whole world changed in my mind. Which, in some ways is maybe where it needs to start. And
Mm.
right. So I think the and is how does that continue in line at security at the airport when it's way overbooked and like way too many people trying to get through at one time or
Yeah.
or whatever, right? Like how do we maintain that vision, that excitement, that energy, that focus? And that's kind of the point of going on, like spiritual retreats, right? It's literally to be able to put everything else down for the time being and get that like hyper focus on whatever the focus is. And so I think that makes it easier in that space to do that. So what gets in the way, I think one of the major things is, for me, it was ha- not talking about the skills needed to bring that vision and
Mm.
integrate it into real life. And right, like I think when we try and introduce our excitement for our passion into our real life, I think it's really easy for real life. I keep saying that like it's a different thing. When we get back into the mix of things, I think it's really easy for all that to just like wash over
Yeah.
that excitement, wash over the passion. Like real life is not built, it's not designed for our passions. It's designed for, doing the thing. It's designed for the shoulds, doing the things you're supposed to do, getting the job, buying the stuff, getting in debt, whatever,
At least the
that.
frameworks that we have right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I
Mm.
that's one of the biggest things I see getting in the way is
Yeah.
like we don't really have a world that's designed for our passions. So how do we
Mm.
get how do we follow our passions anyway? How do we move by that thing because I think it's possible to be
Yeah.
moved by those things that stir us. We just have to be really intentional about it.
Well, and I love that. I love that it is that once again, it's like this constant, this awareness that we are operating in a system that is not uh, congruent with our natural
Yeah.
kind of blueprint.
Yeah. Not designed
Um,
for you,
yeah,
for
it's not. I
me,
mean, it is,
for
and
us.
so I think that it's really interesting that we've created something that's not designed for us. It's just very interesting. I think also
Yeah.
what gets in the way is even our definition of what passion is, or I think because I think sometimes we think that living from our passion or doing the things that we are passionate about is always going to look a certain way. We're always going to
Mm,
wake up energized and full of ideas and
yeah.
full of energy and moving toward that thing. And if it doesn't look that way, then we're not living from our passion. And I think that really flipping that definition on its head, that it's not always going to look that way.
Yeah.
There are people that are passionate about social justice, passionate about, dismantling these systems and frameworks that actively work against our passion. And there's some days we wake up and they're like, "No, I'm just gonna stay in bed today because everything is too hard," and that's okay. That doesn't mean we've had a step back or anything, but I think that does um, that it doesn't always have to look like this meditation retreat sort of,
Right. Yes.
fluffiness, how you
Yeah.
feel when you come off the mountaintop of a retreat or something like that. You're not always gonna have that, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not in the direction of your passion. And so I think that, it's just this constant, just like we talk about, our vision and our values aren't static. Neither is our passion. Neither is how our passion shows up in our lives is not static.
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving and moving and changing based on what we are learning about ourselves. And maybe sometimes that's like, you know what, my body right now needs rest or needs this. So I'm going to step back from the things that I'm usually involved in or the things that I usually engage in.
Yeah.
So I think passion it ebbs and flows too, right? Just like values, it's kind of like this evolving, kind of fluid sort of experience. And I think what gets in the way, I think, is our own, like you said, the shoulds and the expectations of what it should look like.
Yeah.
And I think that's across the board. That gets in the way of like nearly anything.
Every
The shoulds
anything.
and it's got to look this way
Yeah.
because then you discount like 99.9% of our actual lived experience,
Yeah.
right?
And then there's the comfort versus uncomfortable thing, and like that
Yeah.
sense of overwhelm that creeps in, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's supposed to look like a certain thing and we think it doesn't, our passion should be huge. And well, passions come in all shapes and sizes, right? So
Yeah.
like if it's a small passion, well, all of a sudden that's not going to feel right. So then we go for the big passion. Well, the big passion probably is not going to fit into that framework. And then the overwhelm creeps in of like, this is so big, I don't think I can. And we go back to that comfort zone of what is, even though it's actually also uncomfortable. It's just we're used to it. And yeah, that's like a super weird thing. Cause I think you're right. Like I think that's what stops us from doing anything. And I don't know, there's a certain element of like integration tools. I think that's a word we use a lot, is
Mhm.
integration. There
Yeah.
there are tools for integrating all the different parts of our lives so that small, medium, large, huge passions, all of them can fit into the other things that we're doing. And for some people, that means having more of a 9 to 5 regular kind of thing where they can do their passion on the side. Other people, it means like forging new pathways where they're just like dropping all of the comforts of life as is and going for a whole new thing and,
Yeah.
paving the way kind of thing and everything else in between. But I think there's a new skill set that's going to be emerging in the near future for all of us because it's necessary.
Well, when I think of passion too, and, just kind of to wrap up a little bit, is like
Yeah.
passion just seems like the activity of life, right? Just the activity of life, that thing that just
Right.
urges us forward, right? So it isn't like, I mean, that could look different. I mean, based on wherever you're standing or wherever you're present in this moment. And so I think it's just that movement. And so the more that we're curious, the more that we're open, the more that, dare I say, flexible, this coming from a person who surprisingly is not an overly flexible person. Um, I think it is a call. Passion's a call to release a little bit of attachment, release a little bit of the strong grip on things, and just allow the activity of life to flow across the board. And we recognize that it is easier for activity of life to flow for some folks than it is for others because we have created systems and frameworks. Going back to that again, we're going to keep on saying this that are in direct opposition of allowing that easy flow for everyone. And so a part of this releasing, a part of this releasing attachments, a part of this allowing the activity of life to flow is really to begin to create spaces where that can be true for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of communities like this. That's a benefit of conversations like this for a constant reminder. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that needs to shift.
Yep.
We can get passionate about that for sure.
Yeah. And it's shifting. Like it is currently is
Yes,
shifting
yes,
to create new systems and frameworks. And I think that's why it seems like the old systems and frameworks are so loud
yes.
because it is shifting and moving. And that brings up a lot of discomfort.
The last cries of a dying
Yeah.
entity, right?
Right.
Well, thank you for joining us for this brief discussion on passion and how we can begin to live from that passion and really begin to look at some of the things that get in the way. Often that's what we have to do first, right? Is look at the things that get in the way and get really curious about that. And then we can begin to shift and move and create spaces and systems and frameworks that really provide us a wonderful container where we all can begin to live from that space of passion. And so if you would like to kind of be involved a little bit more in this conversation of passion and join us for the gathering on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find all the information and sign up on our website. It's an opportunity for us to get together, and a little bit of small group, informal sort of session, and really begin to speak from our own personal experiences around topics, and specifically this Thursday around this topic of living from passion. And there's so many amazing activities that we have going on at Soul Evolution Collaborative. We just invite you to check out our website. You can root around in there and find there's just something for everyone. And so we invite you to take a look at our website, and we hope that we see you at more of these events. So if we don't see you on Thursday at our gathering or any of our other events, we will definitely see you back here for Truth Be Told 2.0.